Greetings, film freaks. We are the Podcorn Kernels. Join us as we discuss the hard and often indigestible truths that are at the center of the fluffy and delicious world of cinema.
What's poppin', people? Welcome to the Podcorn Kernels podcast. My name is Adam, and joining me in your earholes is Harry. Say hello, Harry.
Holy shit, man, you just ran through a huge pile of dog shit.
On today's episode, we will be talking about Forrest Gump. This is a 1994 film directed by Robert Zemeckis and stars Tom Hanks, Robin Wright, and Sally Field. IMDb describes the synopsis as follows. The presidencies of Kennedy and Johnson, the Vietnam War, the Watergate scandal, and other historical events unfold from the perspective of an Alabama man with an IQ of 75, whose only desire is to be reunited with his childhood sweetheart. Here is an original song to support the synopsis.
Jenny, why don't you see? Life is like a box of chocolates, but you don't pick me. I run to you, I run far away. I do what you tell me, what mama says. Went to Vietnam, played ping pong. You did drugs and other stuff and sang your songs. We go together like carrot and peas. I may not be smart, but I know in my heart that you are the woman for me. You are the woman for me.
Barbecue shrimp, boiled shrimp, broiled shrimp, baked shrimp, sauteed shrimp, shrimp kebab, shrimp creole, shrimp gumbo, pan fried shrimp, deep fried shrimp, stir fried shrimp, pineapple shrimp, lemon shrimp, coconut shrimp, pepper shrimp, shrimp soup, shrimp stew, shrimp salad, shrimp and potatoes, shrimp burger, shrimp sandwich. That's about it.
Let's start with some facts about the film. Bill Murray, John Travolta, and Chevy Chase turned down the role of Forrest Gump. Travolta later admitted that passing on the role was a mistake. Bill Paxton was one of the initial first choices for the titular role, but the studio demanded somebody with more star power. The novel's author, Winston Groom, had always envisioned John Goodman as Gump, who is a 300-pound man in the novel.
That's to do with his height, not so much his weight, I reckon.
Explain.
Well, he's 6'2", I believe. And
Goodman?
Yeah, Goodman's 6'2".
Right.
And I think Tom Hanks is about 6 foot. But the writer, Winston Groom, is it?
Yeah.
His book's written on a guy who's 6'6".
Really?
Yeah.
Gump was meant to be a 6'6", 300-pound man.
Well, in his book, he's a 6'6", 300-pound. No, he's 6'6", 220-pound guy.
Well, it says here is a 300-pound man in the novel.
I thought John Goodman was 300-pound.
Well, the fact I've got here says that Gump was a 300-pound man in novel.
Jesus.
Regardless, it's a 50-pound difference.
Is he running?
That's what I mean. When I read that fact, I was like, is Goodman going to be, someone of Goodman's build going to be running for 3 years? I mean, it's a great way to lose weight, sure.
Out of all of them, I definitely can't imagine John Goodman playing him.
Or Chevy Chase.
I wouldn't want Chevy Chase playing it because the whole thing would look like a joke.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's one of those cases where Tom Hanks does such a good job, I couldn't ever envision anyone else doing it. Mm-hmm. It's interesting because out of that list, Bill Murray, John Travolta, Chevy Chase, and initially Bill Paxton, if I had to go with one, I'd say Bill Paxton would be the smart choice out of that group.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how well we'd play, I suppose low IQ is something that's going to be said a lot when it comes to this film, because from the get-go, you're aware of it.
Yeah, I mean, it goes hand in hand with Forrest Gump's character, isn't it? He's a simple man that has an extraordinary journey. Mm-hmm. I think it takes someone of Tom Hanks' abilities and class to be able to pull that off without coming across as derogatory or hammy.
I'm with you. I'd pick Paxton over all of that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, they got it right with Tom Hanks. I think he's iconic in the role, and I really struggled to see anyone else doing it justice, to be honest.
Chappelle got offered the Bubba role.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah. He said he regretted not taking it in the end.
I can see why, because that's a huge role.
It's a huge character.
I think McKelty Williamson, who plays Bubba, I think he was brilliant in this.
Yeah.
Never seen him in anything else.
One of my biggest likes.
Yeah, I think he's fantastic.
Absolutely.
I saw something about him that he had a casting for a role, and they turned him down because they said they thought his lips would be bigger.
That's a prosthetic.
Yeah, because of the film. Imagine getting turned down for a job because your lips weren't as big as they were in a film.
That is insane.
It's madness, isn't it?
Absolutely.
After his experience playing Lieutenant Dan, Gary Sinise established a charity to help disabled veterans. To date, he's raised over $280 million.
Isn't it called like the Lieutenant Dan Band or something?
Is it really?
It's something like that, yeah.
I really hope it is.
It is, yeah.
And that's just a class act, isn't it?
He's the front man, isn't he?
What, for the charity?
For the band.
Is he?
He fronts a band.
Does he?
The charity, yeah. So the money he raises, he fronts a Lieutenant Dan Band.
No. Is the band full of veterans as well?
I don't know. He's not a veteran.
No.
I don't know. I don't think he is.
But that's lovely, isn't it? To have a role that's so impactful that he takes what he's learnt from the experience of that role to help others that have actually lived the what his character has gone through.
Absolutely. Well, it makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it is a film and you are an actor, but at the same time, he's probably sitting there thinking like, even though you say his legs are CGI'd out, he was only using his upper body half for the most of the scenes. And he must have been like, how do people do this? And then just got a little soft spot for it and thought, God, man, it's harsh.
Especially in the 70s where he loses his legs within the film.
Yeah.
The technological and medical advances aren't what they are now back then, so it must be 10 times as more difficult, I'd imagine.
Couldn't afford the prosthetics. Very different.
Yeah.
Because it's the US, isn't it? You don't just get I mean, I suppose the GI payout didn't cover his legs.
No.
Which he got later.
Yeah, and I think he's brilliant in this as well. It's safe to say it's one of my favourite films, and every time I watch it, obviously Tom Hanks in the lead role is amazing. I'd say Gary Sinise as Lieutenant Dan is probably right up there with it. Such a layered performance. You see him go through all the emotions. Obviously, a die-hard war veteran that's had this mentality that he has to die in battle because of his family, and then dealing with the loss of his legs and then coming to terms with it and then being at peace. I think his story within the film's a really lovely one as well.
He's a great actor. I'd love to see more of him nowadays. I mean, he did 3 huge films of Hanks.
Apollo 13.
Green Mile.
Oh.
Yeah. He's the dad in Green Mile that does the analogy about the dog biting his son, takes him out in the field, blows his brains out.
Yeah.
Because he was a lovely dog all his life, and then one day he bit his son.
Yeah.
So they've been in 3 huge films together.
That's a really small part for Sinise, isn't it?
Great part, though.
Yeah. Great film.
Yeah. Brilliant film.
I can't remember seeing him in anything recently, which is a damn shame.
Yeah.
Yeah. Final fact, Forrest Gump is included among the 1001 movies you must see before you die, edited by Steven Schneider. Schneider! What did you like about Forrest Gump?
Mackenzie Williamson. He's still, even watching it 15 years later, so it's been a long time since I've seen it, he's still one of the strongest characters. And still, even as a young kid, like, my mum patted me on the back going, it's okay, Hal, don't worry, he's all right, it's not real. And I was like, I just feel for him. He's such a soul. The way he's referencing all the different shrimps you can get. Yeah. And he just wants to, when I get home, I'm going to use the money to get a shrimp boat.
Yeah.
And, he just dies with his belly out. It just kills me. But his whole role is excellent. He's got to be the best. He's got to be the best friend to any man.
Yeah.
I would love to be his best mate.
Oh, just so supportive.
Yeah.
Without being any sort of hindrance. Just always there. And there's something to be said about both him and Forrest Gump himself. They're not necessarily the smartest of people. But the film goes to show you don't have to be the smartest to have a good heart, to be well-intentioned, to be pure, to just be kind, a good soul.
And maybe even the other way around, like not being overly highly intelligent or overly successful allows you to look at what is important in life.
Yeah.
So they're not hungry or ambitious for money or anything. Like they want quite a simple life, don't they?
Yeah, and the simple things are what are important.
Oh, definitely.
And I think everyone can take a lesson from that. We all get fogged with work stuff, hassle, societal expectations. If we're there for people as we should be, all of these little things that we busy our brains with and overthink. Like, there's something very beautiful to be said about just focus on the now, which those two characters do in the film. Just be present. Just worry about the small things.
If I had it my way, I'd live in a tent and I'd be sucking on mushrooms, mate. and just loving life in the woods.
To get
Like a BG.
high, or just to be simple pure boy?
No, I just meant food mushroom.
Yeah.
I didn't mean like trip, lose it, and then feed my unicorn.
I took it there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I immediately thought, if you're going to be in a tent doing mushrooms, I'm there with you and things are going to get weird.
If anything, I don't want to be around anyone. Like, apart from like instant family and close friends, like that general public. Oh man,
Yeah.
I'd much rather be in the woods with a Forrest Gump or a Bubba, like hunting squirrel or looking for shrimp.
Yeah.
Just being kind, being lovely. Get me away from society. I'm done with this place.
It's just a calmer, more peaceful experience. And I don't know about you, the older I get, the less I can be dealing with people.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's necessarily the best thing to be admitting on a podcast where we're looking for people to validate us.
Oh, fuck them.
But it's true, isn't it? The older you get, you don't want to be dealing with the nonsense that comes with
That's it.
knowing loads of people and pleasing loads of people.
You're getting older, so life's getting shorter, and you start to realise that it matters who you spend your time with.
Yeah.
And I'd rather be spending my time with the likes of Bubba, this warm-hearted guy who knows everything about shrimp fishing,
Yeah.
and Tom Hanks, who's just incredible with a paddleboard. What's that thing called? It's just called a paddle?
Yeah.
Ping pong paddle?
Yeah, go with that. Yeah.
Ping pong paddle waddle?
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. They've little interests and stuff and passions about saying I'd never look at shrimp fishing.
Yeah.
Ping pong.
It speaks to quality over quantity, doesn't it? It's like when I was younger, I'd have loads of groups of different mates. I'd go and do things with this group, things with that group.
None of them
speak to
loved you,
on the
Ed.
phone. No, I know that now.
None of
mate.
them loved
I know.
you, mate.
They're not here now, are they, mate?
You were a punch bag.
I know
You're
that.
Pillsbury Doughboy.
Yeah.
Michelin.
All right, mate.
They brought you along because you were the chunk factor.
I know this now, and I think about it often. So we'll move on to what else did you like about the film?
The CGI used in it, to me, it's nothing short of genius. Like, for its time, the fact that you could superimpose Hanks into some historical footage, it works a lot better in the black and white or the sepia ones.
Yeah, 100%.
The colourful one with Lyndon B. Johnson when he's asked to see the wound in his arse, that's a little ropey, but the ones with like JFK and Richard Nixon and stuff, they're so well done. I mean, better than the de-aging process in The Irishman, and that's 27 years. I know you're looking at different forms, but you look at like De Niro in The Irishman, you're like, oh, that looks weird.
Yeah.
Like you've younged him, but he's still old.
Yeah.
But he's supposed to be young. And then I looked at like, if you can superimpose, Tom Hanks into this old footage where he's having a conversation with JFK, and it's very cleverly done. Not including the war scenes and the Hueys and the helicopters. Like the CGI in this, it's brilliant, because at the time when I was younger, I didn't see CGI. I just saw the film. I just thought it's really clever how they've done that. Obviously, I don't know how they've done it.
Can I shock you?
Yeah.
The CGI is one of my dislikes.
Really?
Yeah. I completely agree with you. When it's the black and white scenes where he's just in the background of the shot and it's in real footage, it works. In some of the scenes when they make the mouths move so it looks like they're interacting with Forrest, some of it works. Looking at the John Lennon scene and the later scene with Nixon, where I was a bit like, oh, I never noticed it when I was younger.
What about because it's a drama, Dilo? So because it is a comedy, like them, I know what you mean about the John Lennon one in the interview. They're imposing his lyrics from Imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, I sort of take that hand in hand with the film. I feel like that's the intention. Tom Hanks didn't stand next to Lyndon B. Johnson and show his arse wound.
Yeah.
So seeing it, I suppose, it's just like, oh, well, we know they've done this. They've superimposed it.
Yeah.
But I still think, yeah, the black and white scenes off top.
Yeah.
But what about you see all the Hueys in the background during the panning shot as he arrives in Vietnam?
See,
They've got like 9, they look great.
Yeah.
For its time.
For me, when I speak of the problem I have with the CGI, it solely rests on the putting him in historical scenes. Some of them work and they look flawless, like they look really impressive. Other parts, not so much. And it is a film that I hold really dearly to my heart. So when I'm processing it critically, when I'm analysing it, that is something that I saw that I didn't necessarily see the 10 times before I watched it, because I wasn't looking at things for problems, so to speak. But that is one thing that I spotted, and yeah, some parts didn't work for me.
Well, why don't you superimpose your opinion into the bin?
Oh, all right.
I jokes, Dads.
All right. No, that was good. That was quick. I appreciate that. What else did you like about the film?
Well, it's a like-dislike. It's a like. So I suppose how I would phrase it is like the snowflakes of like today's anarchists. and social justice warriors. They refuse to see that Forrest is colorblind when it comes to racism and stuff. They refuse to see how many good messages the film talks about in regards to equality. All they look at is what they're seeing as like a barrage from conservatism to the left. So what I love about it is that watching it 15 years later, i.e. last night, is it's still wrought with how lovely his character is and how he sees the world. Yeah. So I still think it's full of morals. And I love that, like, he sees Bubba. He doesn't see a black man in 1960s Alabama.
No.
He sees this warm heart and this guy who's really, and lets him sit next to him and chat to him, and he's totally oblivious to racism. So I find that there's so many lovely messages still in the film about how you judge a person on the content of their character, not by the colour of their skin.
Well, exactly that. And it speaks to the character himself. Don't judge Forrest by his IQ. Judge him by his heart, what he does, how he cares for people, what it means, what the people he loves mean to him. And when I hear, and it seems to increase as the years go by, I hear backlash about the film. It's something I really struggle with, because I've never watched this film and seen it as a problem. I've never watched this and been like, I think it's really derogative of how they portray someone with limited mental capabilities, or they're exploiting him, or it's pro-war. I don't see anything like that. All I see is a really wholesome film that just highlights what's important and how far you can go if the film's message is keep running. So if you're going through hard times, keep going, keep pushing through, and that's what Forrest Gump does throughout the whole film. So when I hear this background nonsense of this film means this, it's bollocks. You can watch any film and say
and apply your gender to it. Yeah,
exactly. You can watch any single film and say there's an ulterior motive in that. You could watch fucking Finding Nemo and say the dad's a control freak and doesn't want his son to go and experience life, because you could make it really dark. You could say, he's gaslighting his own son.
Finding Nemo does not reflect the true damage that the world has done to the Great Barrier Reef. There should be a body in a car floating just behind Nemo.
It's exactly that. And I think we live in a day and age where liberalism it's almost the in thing, to a point where people aren't doing it because they believe in the things that they're outraged by. They're doing it because they want to see they're part of the cool kid tribe.
But that's why it's a because for me, like you hear all this, even in films now, it's become a bit of a parody, or they trash on Forrest Gump or take the mickey out of it, etc. I'm all with that. That's fine, because as things age, they do get funny, and it's great for that reason. So what I loved about it is 15 years later watching it and seeing all of still what's good with it.
Yeah,
like there's still such nice messages in that film about how to treat people, not base it on racism and classism, etc. So I like it. I love that reason, because it also coincides with a dislike, which we'll cover further later.
Well, I completely agree. And I think that's if you're looking at a film like Forrest Gump and you're trying to find red flags in it, I think that might say something about you as a person. And that could be damaging to me as a character or to the podcast. But if you're going into a film that is clearly well-intentioned, there's no hidden agendas or anything. At least I strongly don't think there is. If I've missed it, then God knows how, because I've watched it so many times. You're not looking for it. Yeah. But if you're going to try and find something so sinister in such a well-intentioned film, like, what are you doing? There's really problematic films out there. Friends, the TV series, is shown on God knows how many channels for God knows how many years. We've got one of the lead characters in that sexually objectifies women throughout, sleeps with women that are portrayed as bimbos that are just stunning, got nothing to their personality. Yeah. And you can go and buy jumpers and stuff with him in Primark and Friends in Primark. And no one's seeing that as a problem.
No one will turn on Friends.
Something like Forrest Gump, which is about someone who hasn't got the mental capacity of the vast majority of people, still doing fucking well for himself, not listening to the naysayers, pushing through, being the best he can be despite his defaults and difficulties. And that's a problem.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, especially with Friends. Like, if you think there wasn't an actual talking part for a black actor or even a substantial part until like 9th season or something.
Yeah.
When Ross's girlfriend is a black Charlie. Yeah. Like, there wasn't a proper role for a black person in Friends till like the last season or close to the end. And on top of that, one I used to find really funny was any innuendo or insinuation of lesbians in it was always applauded.
Yeah.
Joey in that, oh man, yeah, anything gay was And I don't, obviously, I didn't even notice at the time. But because of this heightened sense of, can you say this? Can you not say this now? Should we go back, look at everything that's been done in the past?
Exactly.
This weird world of not wanting to promote different times, different decades, not wanting to promote anything about this is history, this is past. They want to actually wipe it.
Yeah.
Get rid of it, hide it. Why do you want to hide the thing you're fighting for? That's ridiculous.
Yeah. And it's that sense of selective outrage. If it's something that is mass popular, most people love. It was made ages ago. We can just sweep that under the carpet. We can ignore it. But then they'll go back to films that were made in 1994 and try to pick it apart. And it's just like, for me, I don't have kids. If I had kids, and once they were old enough to watch and understand and appreciate a film like Forrest Gump, that's one of the first things I would show them. I'd be like, look, despite the hang-ups and insecurities you have about yourself, there's always someone worse off. And you know what? If you put in the hard work, if you're raised with respect and love and care, you can be whatever you want to be. And it's not necessarily a linear journey. It can have its ups and downs. It will have its ups and downs. But you persevere. You keep on running like Forrest does, and you can make whatever you want. So people trying to badmouth it does affect me, and I will never get my head around it, and I will never stop fighting for Forrest.
I would love a one-to-one argument with somebody who feels that really strongly against the film, but only their reasons. If they said, "Oh, it's a bit shoddy," the direction was a bit shoddy, the CGI, fine, that's an opinion I can't argue with.
Yeah,
but give me what you genuinely believe as to why this film is really really inflammatory towards society.
What about it troubles you?
Yeah.
What does it act? What is the film trying to say that you can prove without a shadow of a doubt it's trying to say that affects you and affects society? If you said to me, I don't like Tom Hanks' performance, well, you're wrong, but I respect that. That's your opinion. That is an opinion.
I think you're wrong.
Yeah, well, they're wrong.
Let's be thinkers.
Okay. Let's say we think they're wrong, but I know my hearts of hearts.
Yeah, I mean, we live in a world where you see Simple Jack in Tropic Thunder now, and it dilutes a little bit of Forrest Gump.
Yeah, because that shows what it would be if it was done with harsh
Malice.
intentions. Yeah, if it was done with any shape of it being sinister, that is what it would be. But there's none
brain
of it.
movies.
Yeah,
makes my eyes red.
Exactly.
Amazing.
Yeah. And people, there might be people out there that have loved ones that have got a low IQ or work with people that have lesser mental capabilities, and they might see it as a problem. Now, I'd be interested to hear their opinion about that. I would, but for me, it's a shining light of what people who aren't highly intelligent or even have average intelligence, what they can be if the people around them are good, if the people around them are supportive.
It teaches morals, and I find that a weird thing to attack. So the fact that, like, we look at Lieutenant Dan and we feel sorry for him because he's lost his legs and he wants to die, that's excellent teaching. That teaches you, look, just because that guy's different, just because Bubba is black and he lives with, like, everyday racism, even Gary Sinise's character is like, you better tuck that lip in, otherwise it's going to hit a tripwire.
Yeah.
Now, that's clearly a joke because his lip is not down to the floor.
Yeah.
And that's excellent writing, because what you're showing there is he's living in a time where it was just totally cool to be like, dude, tuck your lip in.
Well, it was that form of, like, passive-aggressive societal racism, wasn't it? Rather than a full-blown attack.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's
odd.
It baffles me.
I knew I'd find it hard to not go there very quickly with feeling the fire and dislike.
Yeah, well, me too. It feels like if I saw someone kicking a puppy, I would kick off, because you're like, well, that puppy's pure, that puppy's good.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
Now, I could have someone who's more intelligent than me, a highly intellectual person, say, oh, well, actually, if you dig a little deeper, this means that and this means that, and I'd listen to it. But I still don't think, the difference for me is I don't think this film was made with malice like people are saying it is. A lot of people say it's really right-wing, like you mentioned earlier, it's really conservative and stuff like that. I don't think it's anything like that at all. I think Robert Zemeckis and everyone involved tried to make a feel-good film that will appeal to 10-year-olds, to 30-year-olds, to 70-year-olds. You can watch it with anyone and take something from it.
Yeah.
Are you done with your likes?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Well, yeah, I've lots of some dialogue. One real quick just kills me. The drill sergeant when he starts boot camp. Gump, what's your sole purpose in this army? To do whatever you tell me to, Forrest. God damn it, Gump. You're a goddamn genius.
Yeah.
Most outstanding answer I've ever heard.
Yeah.
I was dying.
I couldn't tell you how many times I've seen Forrest Gump, but that kills me every single time. And he says he said he takes to the army really well because you just have to do what they tell you and say, sir, yes, sir. And it's like, well, in essence, that is it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that bit. For me, my favourite thing about it is it's just how it's an emotional roller coaster. As I say, I've seen this film countless times, but from the second this film started, I was hit with a overwhelming sense of that nostalgic comfort. I think Forrest Gump perfectly hits every emotion that I can feel. It's funny, it's sad, anger-inducing, as well as profoundly moving. And even at 30 years old, I am still in awe at how it finally balances the feels to deliver an equally uplifting and gut-punching experience. I just love it, man. It's a film that I hold so dear to me. And as someone who has maybe felt a little bit robotic, a little bit of an outcast for most of their life.
You got a hollow tin chest, mate.
Yeah, I'm dead inside. But that's exactly why I love this film so much. I saw it when I was probably about 10 or 11 at my grandparents'. They had a shop in a sleepy seaside village in Hayling Island. And in the evenings, my dad and nan and granddad and my uncles and aunties would go and play cards, and I'd sit there with my mum and we'd watch on whatever was on telly. And back in them days, you didn't have Netflix or streaming services or the internet or anything like that.
You had to wait.
So it'd just be whatever is on telly. And one night this film started, the beautiful music, the feather comes into shot. It was my bedtime, and mum was like, go to bed. And I was like, I want to watch this. Did not know what it was. Had no idea. I just wanted to stay up. I didn't want to go to bed. I was a child. And I sat there and watched it with her, and I'd never been moved like that at that age. I'd never felt that emotion about anything. I'd already established that I loved films at that age, but I was watching films like the Transformers movie and Goonies and things like that, like child-focused films. And then this film happened, and I was just like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
And ever since that moment, I've watched it every time, and it still hits me exactly the same way. And I think that's the mark of a special film.
It is, and I think that whole area of that whole 92 to 96 was full of these films.
Yeah,
Like, you couldn't avoid them. They were so powerful, and like you said, you go from watching your Goonies and Transformers and stuff because we're in that age bracket, and then you get hit with Philadelphia in 93. Gump in 94, and it just goes and goes and goes. And all these great films in the 90s really cut into emotion. Like I always told you, like Last of the Mohicans, Glory and stuff. They might not stand the test of time. They might not be great now, but at the time, I shed tears. Braveheart, cried my eyes out.
Yeah.
Braveheart, Jesus.
That was another one I watched at my grandparents'.
But they
far too young. That shook me. Yeah.
They are huge for the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, even Private Ryan and stuff, you've got to think about it. Like, yes, things can age. People can then look back at a film and be like, oh, it's full of all this, and it's anti-establishment, and it's traditionalist and conservatism and stuff. I'm like, oh, fuck me. Yeah, right. Film-wise, let's talk film. It may not have stood the test of time in terms of the film. But whatever you're looking for, political subtext or anything, you're stopping your own growth, because say we have moved past these old ideals and old ways of seeing the world, or white success and privilege, etc. We've moved past, and it's progressed hugely in almost every art form. But so to keep going back to the past and shitting on an older film because it doesn't stand the test of time with your political agenda, that infuriates me. I can't deal with that.
No,
I just want to go slappity slap. I want to wet fish slap their face.
And it's understandable, because you can't change history. You can only focus on to make things different in the present and future. You learn from history. You learn from mistakes. You learn from history. And films like Forrest Gump, I don't think there's something that massively needs to be learned.
It's full of history.
Yeah, it's full of and it's just wholesome content. So we've circled back to the point, and like you said earlier, it's probably something we're going to talk about a lot. But that sense of injustice and people being outraged at a film 30 years old, there's nothing. It's 30 years of age, but there's nothing in it that I think, oh, that's really troubling. Oh God, I can't believe they've done that. But there's so many films, even in the early 2000s, even the 2010s, that were troubling.
Yeah.
And in comparison, why are you trying to make a big deal out of Forrest Gump?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a weird one to pick to poke holes at.
Yeah.
Yeah, it comes down to politics.
Yeah, it does, yeah. The second thing I love about it is the man himself, Forrest. Mm-hmm. I have always been and always will be in love with this character. As we mentioned, despite the film coming under increased scrutiny in recent years, I consider Mr. Gump to be the perfect protagonist. He's well-intentioned, kind, generous, loyal, honest, and pure. He's the epitome of a good soul. And yeah, I disagree with those who find this character problematic and consider it to be a really fair representation of how someone with limited mental capability can experience so much if they are raised with support and love. Mm-hmm. Baffles me, man. It just baffles me. Like, it feels like to attack a film like this feels like you're attacking the potential and the possibilities of someone with lesser IQ of what they can achieve. Because by pissing on Forrest, you're pissing on those people as well.
But that's because some people believe that it's an ableist film, but meaning he can only succeed if he moves past his disability, which is nonsense, because he wasn't born without legs, and he didn't lose the ability to use his legs. He had to straighten his spine, so he had braces on his legs. So there is actually a little subculture that think it's an ableist film, which means because he breaks free from the shackles of his leg braces, then he goes on to achieve everything. I mean, how do you find that in that? Because he managed to run from his bullies and break free of his braces, it's an ableist film. So it means that we can't do it because we are disabled. It's like, no, you can't be a ground trooper in Vietnam if you're in a wheelchair.
Well, you can't be a leading American football player.
No, you can't.
Without having the use of your legs.
No, so it's weird. So this is what I mean about reaching. They're reaching. So someone's being ableist. So you're saying I can't imagine why anyone would dislike this character because it's one of your likes. These go hand in hand. Likes, dislikes, hand in hand for Forrest Gump. Cannot be avoided. Mm-hmm. You love the content of his character. You like who he is as a person.
Yeah.
And how could anyone dislike him? And it's insane. You literally, some people believe it's an ableist film. So it's like... See,
I've not heard that.
It doesn't benefit disabled people's hope for their future. I mean, I never saw that in the film.
See, I see it...
Lieutenant Dan's got no legs in the film and he's on top of a ship mast loving life.
I see it as the complete opposite.
Yeah.
For me, it speaks to you can be faced with a really difficult hand, whether you've got it dealt at birth or whether it comes later in life.
Nice.
And if you persevere and you've got people around you to support you, now it may be a little bit unrealistic, but so what? It's a film. It may be unrealistic.
It's not a biography. No. It's based on a novel.
Yeah, but it just goes to show that with hard work and just keep on with perseverance, and he comes through great adversity to get where he is, and he's not a smart man, but he's a pure soul, and that's what carries him through. Mm-hmm. And I think that is an important message.
Yeah,
I think that's really important.
That's a great message.
Yeah,
excellent message.
Baffling, man. I could go on for days about what I like about the film.
I will counter every single one of your likes with the dislikes that I have about people not liking your likes.
And yeah, I'm here for that. Let's go at them. Yeah.
More.
And for me, to wrap it all up, it is the perfect film. I said it. It's laugh out loud funny and tear-jerkingly sad. Forrest Gump helped me feel a little bit more human at a time in my life when I felt alien to everyone else around me.
That's a great riposte to any negative stuff. Yes.
Whatever you have to say about Forrest Gump as film, as an art form, if it can connect with you and do that, I think that's why it's one of the greatest arts, for me, the greatest art, the greatest form of entertainment, because it can make you feel so deeply. Mm-hmm. And I will remain fiercely loyal to this film because of that.
Well, times change. It sweeps the Oscars, didn't it? It won 6 or so.
Yeah.
Best Picture, Best Director.
Best Actor,
yeah.
Yeah. Best Screenplay.
No, Screenplay went to Tarantino, Pulp Fiction.
Did it?
Yeah, original Screenplay. Yeah.
Knowledge. Did it get Best Soundtrack, Best Music, Best Score?
I think so.
It should have done.
I don't know. I mean, personally, and this might be fire for you, but personally, I think Best Picture should have gone to Shawshank.
No.
Yeah.
No.
For me personally, I'm allowed to say that.
No, but I'm allowed to say no.
Shawshank is the better Oscar film.
Okay.
for me.
But listen, it's not like you're saying
Over time.
It's not like you're saying Fast and Furious 6 was an Oscar-worthy masterpiece. Shawshank Redemption is an amazing film.
Shawshank is
undoubtedly.
Shawshank is for a much more adult audience, I'd say. It's much more specific and niche. I think you can watch Forrest Gump as a younger kid. Mummy's not going to let me watch the sisters rape Tim Robbins.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And even further than that, Mummy's definitely not going to let me watch Pulp Fiction when Marcel Wallace gets bum.
And isn't that mad that those films are all in the same year?
Yeah, insane.
Forrest Gump,
Shawshank,
Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, insane. What a year.
I don't think that could be topped, do you?
To be around. That's a strong year.
Yeah.
That is a bloody strong year.
I to be honest, they're three of my favourites. All three of them. I would say top 10. Yeah,
I think
definitely.
Even 93 or 4. You had Philadelphia. He won the Oscar. He was the only second actor ever to do this. He won an Oscar 2 years in a row. He won for Philadelphia, then Forrest.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And that's testament to Tom Hanks, isn't it? I
Yeah.
think he's an amazing actor.
God, he banged some films out in the 90s, man.
Yeah.
Forrest Gump, Philadelphia, Apollo 13. Jesus.
Saving Private Ryan.
Toy Story, 97,
Yeah.
98, I think.
What a man.
What a man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What elements of Forrest Gump didn't you like?
This is kind of like a Schrodinger's cat sort of scenario because, if the cat's in the box and there's poison in there, it's dead and alive because you don't know until you lift the box up, whether it's dead or alive. So you don't know the outcome.
Wait.
Don't think about it. But mine is the book. This kills me. So reading about the plot, how the film differs from the book. Obviously, you covered it earlier. 6'6". I thought, how weird if they would have got a 6'6" actor to play Forrest's role and for him to be 250, 300 pounds.
Yeah. A fat Forrest?
Yeah.
Run, Forrest, run. Waddle, Forrest, waddle.
It's very strange because I can't imagine the physical prowess of him being better if he was that big. But the biggest
How would
one
it work?
in the book, man, this killed me when I read this. NASA hire him as an astronaut in the book, and he goes into space with an orangutan called Sue.
Well, I tell you what, I didn't think I could. Thinking about this film, I would say I couldn't think of anything that would make this film better. Throw an orangutan called Sue in there, and that bumps that shit up a level.
You ain't heard half of it.
There's more.
They crash to Earth into Papua New Guinea and get captured by cannibals. Him and Sue, the orangutan. They make it back to America. He finds out Jenny's had the baby, right? But
And it's half orangutan.
No, he decides not to be with her because it's not her baby and he's not his baby and they've got married. She's married someone else. So he leaves with Lieutenant Dan and Sue,
Yes.
the orangutan, and they go and live in New Orleans. That ends there.
And is it a dislike that that's not included in the film?
No, it's a Schrodinger cat. Never knowing
What that film would have been.
It's almost like I wish Zemeckis would have got halfway through the film and went, right, now we're going to split into two film teams and we're going to go and do both films.
And it'd be like a Matrix scenario. Choose the blue pill for Sue, the orangutan, and choose the
Exactly.
red pill for...
Yeah, the same thing. But imagine that. So on top of all of the other stuff he's actually
How would
done.
they fit that in?
Yeah. He also becomes a professional wrestler and his name's The Dunce.
Now that if that was included in
might
the
have
film,
been
that
alright.
I can be like, okay, that's problematic. Like that's just a bit on the nose, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, apparently the book is shit.
Whoa.
No, apparently the book is shit. Like...
See,
It's not a very good book. It's not in the literary circles and stuff. It's not critique. It's not high critique. It's actually probably quite a shit book.
well, by the sounds of it,
They took the best from it.
film, isn't loyal to the source material. And from barring Orangutan Sue, which I would happily sit and watch a 2-hour film with Tom Hanks in space with Orangutan Sue. I'd watch that shit right now.
Yeah, cannibals.
God,
Papua New Guinea.
wow.
Well, I see what I mean.
Yeah.
I've just blown your mind.
What could this? If that had been the film, we could be sitting here going, "Forrest Gump is one of the worst films I've ever fucking
seen in the world." See, if Rob Zemeckis hadn't have done it, or whoever wrote the screenplay hadn't have been involved, how different it could have been.
Jesus.
How strange.
Yeah.
Sue the orangutan, man. We wouldn't be sitting here talking about like Bubba and Jenny. We'd also be talking about Sue the orangutan fell to Earth
From space.
Yeah,
Orangutan in space.
mate.
I still think there's a place for that film to be made. Maybe get rid of Forrest, even though I love the character, love Tom Hanks, and just I'd watch a film of a orangutan in space.
Dogs in space.
Planet of the Apes.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any more dislikes?
I think I mentioned it earlier. Because of Simple Jack, it may have affected the way I hear and see Forrest Gump a little. Because obviously Simple Jack is an over-the-top exaggeration of actors playing people with disabilities or special needs. Forrest Gump doesn't do that. He took his voice from the young actor who played the boy in it.
Yeah.
Because that kid had a genuine southern, really deep South Alabama accent, and he took his voice from him. So that's not even the thing that makes him. So if people think he's sounding derogatory towards, disability or speech impediments, he's not. He's actually taking the voice from the young lad who had a deep South Alabama, and it's only because he slows it down a little. It can come across like he sounds a bit slow. But yeah, the whole Simple Jack thing. When the film started and I heard the voiceover, and obviously his dialogue's hilarious because he misinterprets things. We're all looking for a guy called Charlie. We ain't found him yet.
Yeah.
So then my brain kept flicking to Simple Jack.
Okay.
And running in a wheat cornfield with his big teeth sticking out.
Yeah.
And it was because you think because Tropic Thunder came out, 12 years ago, I can't remember how long ago. Yeah, it's because things have come since Forrest Gump. It has become the brunt of jokes. But I loved the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. There's loads of piss takes out of that. Why didn't they just fly to Mordor, etc.? So yeah, it's only through time that I think because it's been it did such a huge thing for cinema. I mean, it became a restaurant chain.
Yeah.
Because of this film, a restaurant chain was created. Chris Pratt was found in a Bubba Gump's. He was a waiter. That's how he got discovered. So without Forrest Gump and then this food chain that comes after it, Chris Pratt's not a waiter in a Bubba Gump's, doesn't get picked up for a film or a role. He wasn't even an actor. Mad, man.
So the sort of parody of the archetype of a Forrest Gump type character done in a comedic way like Tropic Thunder.
Yeah.
It made you sort of relate the two because you've seen it and laughed at it.
Well, yeah, it's sort of the film was so big at the time, it just blew outwards.
Yeah.
And I think that opens it up a lot more to being stabbed at, isn't it? I mean, it's a restaurant. You go to the restaurant in New York, I've been there a few times, and all the staff have to know lines from the films, and there's just memorabilia everywhere, and you can hear everyone in the restaurant, even people just eating, going, Jenny!
Yeah.
And it sort of comes weird. I'm like, oh, imagine if this was a restaurant for Seven. Like Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, there's a special where you ask for the what in the box and you don't know what the meal is.
What in the box?
You make an interesting point, and I think if a film is problematic years after its release, I think the way to combat it is to parody it and laugh at its downfalls. If we've grown as a society and we can laugh at something because it was outdated and up against current times, you look at it as it made and it's problematic, you laugh at it, you have a joke at it and move forward. I think that's far more healthy than trying to snipe it.
Yeah.
And I just thought, Rain Man with Dustin Hoffman.
Yes.
It's that film gets scrutiny decades after its release.
Not as much as Gump.
But
definitely not as much.
In essence, you could argue it's an exploitation, even more so because within the film, Dustin Hoffman's character is exploited by his brother to count cards and earn monetary gain.
Well, that's just a brave storyline because they're showing that he is exploiting his disabled brother. Well, he's not. He's more savant, isn't he? He's like a genius, but not Asperger's?
Well, he's autistic.
Highly autistic.
Yeah. And often with people with autism, the way their brain thinks, they latch onto something and they be really an amazing memory or really good with numbers or any number of things.
The point I'm trying to make is Forrest Gump because of the film, it opened itself up to so much that not attack, but ridicule, I suppose is the word. So if you look at, say, Shawshank, there's none of that. There's none of them comedic tropes out there. There's none of them lines that people just shout. Yeah. It's not something that if I ran down the street someone could shout from a car, "Run, Forrest, run!"
Yeah,
couldn't they?
Yeah,
it's become a part of society.
Yeah, it's embedded into popular culture.
Yeah, so it's become a part of society where, if like Shawshank, it's an inside joke if you know anything about it. Quite funny. Like I remember, like I go camping with like my brother. We go up in the mountains. Like we're both in the showers washing, and he'd come up to me with a bar of soap and go, "Anybody got to you yet?" And I'd know what he meant.
Yeah,
that's a nice inside joke, laughing because we enjoy film. But Forrest Gump's so open to the masses, it's almost Ed Sheeran for me.
So it's like public
knowledge.
Yeah,
I don't want them in my world.
Okay, that's understandable.
And when I think of Simple Jack, and obviously how that takes the mickey out of films kind of like Forrest Gump and the characters that have been created from some historical movies, and even though this film won Oscars, I think people forgot that it won Oscars. Yeah, and I think the more we highlight and go back and look at things and go, "Oh, was it okay for him to play someone with a low IQ?" I'm like, this is getting beyond a joke.
Yeah, when does it end?
Yeah, should we not tell the story of an autistic person because he's not an autistic actor playing an autistic person? What if the autistic person or the autistic person who wants to be an actor can't physically do the role because it's so harsh on their mental state?
Yeah.
So should we not tell stories of our autistic people and let the world see autistic people for who they are and like what magic they do have to save some person's feelings who's not autistic?
It's a madness, isn't it? It's a thread that if you start pulling, it will never end.
Never.
It will never end. And if you put that discipline and take it to its core, to its essence, you would have no films.
None.
You would just have documentaries.
Yes.
Because it would be like, oh, this is a film about a farmer that's struggled to grow crops.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we can't have an actor unless it's a farmer that struggled to grow crops. Okay, so let's just film a farmer who's struggling to grow crops.
Yeah.
That's not a film then.
The
It's just a
narrator in this
documentary.
documentary apparently sent a dick pic to this ex-girlfriend a year after he broke up with her, so we've cancelled the whole documentary, and he's a paedophile.
Yeah. What?
That's what I mean. Like, you'll find shit everywhere if you're digging for it. It's ancient. It's a fossil fuel.
So, beautifully put.
Dog.
Yeah. Any more dislikes?
Eric Cohn of IndieWire. This guy, man. This fucking guy. I think I've even hit on him before. I really disagree with this guy. He quoted, "This know-nothing white man becomes a war hero and a wealthy man simply by chugging along, participating in a country that dictates his every move. He never comprehends racism or the complexities of Vietnam."
Right.
I hate this guy.
Yeah, okay, but surely...
Well, him contemplating Vietnam, he was in Vietnam. He's a soldier and he saved guys' lives and he saw wounds. I don't know what he means by that. We can't stop a film and then insert 4-hour Ken Burns documentary, fucktard.
Yeah.
And the other one doesn't contemplate racism. He's showing you the cure to racism, right? You'll never ever cure opinion. That exists and it always will, because the whole time humans exist, we only open ourselves up to more experiences. You can never ever stop experiences from affecting someone's opinion. Like, I could get beaten up by 3 white guys tomorrow and they could be chavs. It could make me hate lower class chavs for being criminals.
Yeah, exactly.
It can happen back and forth. Gypsies, travelling people. Oh, they left the rubbish outside my house. I hate gypsies. You'll never ever stop that. But with the racism thing in this, so what Cohn's saying, which I can't stand him, man, Eric Cohn, is like, he doesn't contemplate the seriousness of Vietnam and racism. What are you talking about? We're watching a film about a guy who goes through history and all these major events and shows you from an opinion of a warm-hearted person.
Yeah, the fact that he doesn't see racism is a testament to his character.
But the fact that he says, white know nothing, this know nothing white man. Why you're fucking white, Eric Cohn. But why the hell are you sitting there going, this know-nothing white man? What's that got to do with anything?
It speaks to he's speaking on other people's behalfs again. That's what is happening. He's outraged for other people, which he's got no right to be outraged. You can sympathise with people. You can be outraged by the plights of other people. Of course you can. That's basic default setting. If you see a person from a different ethnic group from you being mistreated and something, of course you can sympathise. Of course you can stand up. Of course, it shouldn't matter what colour, what sex, what sexuality, any of that. You should be supportive. But that's just a nonsense comment. It feels like it's someone that's trying to jump on a bandwagon or is trying to lead the bandwagon to get people in uproar.
Well, it's to absolve themselves of any wrongdoing forever.
But can't a film just be like, oh, this is a really sweet film about a guy that shouldn't by all extensive purposes, based on how society actually treats people with lower IQ. I mean, granted, within the film, Forrest Gump comes from a fairly well-off family, not even necessarily well off. They have a big house and she makes money by renting out rooms and stuff. So he's got an air of privilege. And I guess the argument is, for him being a white person in America, there is privilege by default.
You can counter all of that, though. So say, for instance, there's an air of privilege. His mum wanted the best for him. She has to shag the teacher to get him into a school. Yeah. That's a sacrifice, man.
Yeah, I mean...
And that teacher was dirt. Yeah. And if you look into any aspect of it, like Forrest sees the kids racism at a school because they don't want to do segregation. They're going to get the black students to now go into the school. A black student drops her book. Everyone else there is livid racist. He's like, she dropped her book.
I'll give her her book.
I'll give her her book.
Yeah.
Runs in, grabs the book and hands it to her. And then it's televised in his college football room.
Yeah.
And the coach is like, that's goddamn Forrest. Like, he's almost annoyed he helped a black girl. So the film is teaching you, look, that's not right to treat people
exactly.
like that. So what is Eric Cohn going on about?
It's basically saying you don't have to be intelligent to not be racist. Guess what? You shouldn't be racist.
No.
You don't have to be intelligent to be able to not be a racist bigot.
Yeah.
You can be quite simple and know the fundamentals of right and wrong. And for me, that's what Forrest Gump is. He's not a smart man. He's not well educated, but he's got a very small group of people around him. He goes on to do incredible things. But he goes on this journey and he's not blindsided by prejudice. He's not doing what everyone else is doing because he wants to fit in. He's just doing what he feels is right and natural.
I think what they believe, and when I say they, I mean the subculture that dislike this film, or the half culture, or the full culture that dislike this film, is that Forrest, who I don't believe actually cites anything from the Bible in the film, but he has a very basic love or want of heaven because his mum spoke to him about it.
Yeah.
So he doesn't cite any actual passages from the Bible, but what they look at, I think, is they look at this conservatism. So he believes in traditions, he believes in duty, he believes in God. He doesn't. He's handed everything. He believes in ping pong because someone goes, try this out.
Keep your eye on the ball. And then he keeps his eye on the ball. He believes in
the army because a soldier handed him a leaflet.
Yeah.
But what they're saying is someone like Jenny, who was, a protester, she smoked weed and stuff, they're making out that her life choices are wrong and Forrest's are right. The whole point of the story is Forrest is in love with Jenny, loves her regardless of whatever you think is a fault. So when you say that Forrest is made out to be, it's God, it's morals, it's serve your country, do this, do that, they show you that war's bad.
Yeah.
They show you it. And I think even the speech that you don't hear him do at the event with Abby Hoffman. Yeah,
the reaction suggests.
But they trialed loads of different things to say, but Robert Zemeckis just couldn't find it. He kept falling on it. But one of the ones he does say was, all I know is men go to Vietnam and they lose their legs and some of them don't come back, and that's a bad thing.
Well, it is.
Yeah. But they couldn't find a good way they didn't know what to say, so they thought it'd be comical, solve the issue, take the plug out. Don't know what he said.
Yeah.
But you see Abby Hoffman goes, that's amazing, man, that's amazing. So he said something that was in anti-war.
Yeah.
So it's just exhausting I'd love to have a little 5-minute argument with someone who hates it.
A debate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying love the film. I'm not saying, say it is the greatest film ever made. I'm not saying that. But please give me your evidence as to why you believe it is this
hate crime.
Yeah, conservative barrage to the left. I don't get it.
Yeah. I mean, just to touch on the whole Jenny situation, if Forrest was more intelligent, chances are he would look at Jenny's actions and what she does to him and how she leads him on and then comes back when she needs him and be like, fuck that. You've walked over me too many times. I am not doing that. But he's so pure, he's only focused on the love. He can ignore all the hurt and pain that she's put him through just to be with her. Because that's all he cares.
I don't think you need a peanut between your ears to realise that Jenny was abused by her dad sexually, and that leads her down a slippery slope of not trusting men, feeling very off, having lots of drugs, having lots of sexual partners. I totally forgive Jenny for all of her being flaky and hurting his feelings and running away, because I know she was abused as a kid.
Well, she was a product of her environment. She had a shit start to life, and guess what? The rest of her life was shit as a result.
That's why,
that's a fair representation of trauma. Like, she's a troubled individual.
Exactly.
And her actions are a result of what she's gone through. So she's not the villain in the piece.
And guess what, peeps? That is quite common.
Yeah.
If you've been abused, or you lived in a domestic violence situation or something, you're much more likely to go down a dark path, because you've been fucked with. You've lost your childhood. It's over.
Yeah.
You will be a darker person. You will have struggles. So it's very weird that they think that we're saying Jenny, because she's a war protester and she was a free spirit, that she's wrong and she dies of AIDS, and because Forrest was conservative and this, he lives a happy, rich life. That's fucking nonsense.
Yeah.
It shows you all throughout the film why these things have happened.
Yeah.
Doesn't take sides. Not in my opinion.
No. Well, that leads me on to my dislike, and I'm going to sound like a hypocrite because my main dislike is Jenny. Now, listen, I know the character had a shit childhood, a turbulent life, and struggled with addiction, mental health problems, and trauma. Like you say, she's a direct result of a really, really rough time, and that is, of course, going to have an impact. But I can and will never be able to look past the fact that she treats Forrest like a piece of shit. He loves her unconditionally, and she is ultimately only interested when he has money and when she runs out of options. Now, she is a troubled character because of her life experiences, and of course she would be, like you said. But she knows that Forrest isn't the brightest spark. And she still treads on him and kind of uses him. And it's only when she's dying that she sort of goes back and sort of accepts it.
He's very pure, though. Like you've made strong points that he's extremely pure character. Now, I have been in a situation where you do put someone on a pedestal and it makes you treat them badly or run away from them.
Yeah. Well, of course, yeah. Because if she doesn't feel worthy of the treatment that Forrest gives her, of course she's going to keep him at an arm's length because she doesn't love herself. Mm-hmm. My dislike is because I've had to try and find one for the film. And Jenny, the first time I watched it as a child, I was like, she's horrible. Mm-hmm. Then I got older, she's horrible. Get older and older, and each time I watch it, you as you get older, you do realise, well, that poor fucking woman has had a hell of a time of it.
Yeah, she still annoys me.
And yeah,
even watching it yesterday, she still bothers me.
Yeah. But it's not necessarily her fault. But the way she mistreats my Forrest always triggers me.
Oh, man.
And he deserves the world. So I'm looking at it as purely and as simple as Forrest looks at it. And he doesn't deserve that. He doesn't necessarily understand the trials and tribulations that Jenny has gone through. He's just seeing it as, oh, Jenny's back. Oh, Jenny's gone. Oh, Jenny's back. Oh, Jenny's gone.
And he never judges
Jenny's
her.
back. Oh, she's dying. Oh, she's gone.
Yeah, he doesn't judge her either for the drug use or the multiple boyfriends or the madness in her life. He doesn't judge her once for it.
No.
Why are you doing drugs, Jenny? That line is not in the film.
No.
There's no judgment.
No. Because he's a pure soul.
Yeah, strong message.
Yeah.
I agree with you, though, because when she said, I want to be famous, yeah.
Yeah.
The only next time you see her, it's because he's on a stage in Washington in front of the world, and he does a chat, and the minute he says his name, she runs into the water, and she's like, Forrest!
Yeah, yeah.
She's
got the limelight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet she knew it was him the whole time.
Yeah. I think, listen, it's easy to, when I was younger, to slate Jenny, and as I get older, you do sympathise with her a lot more. And I think Robin Penn's performance, I think she's great in it.
Robin Wright.
Oh, they divorced, didn't they?
Yeah.
My bad. Sorry, Robin. I've got some questions.
See?
Forrest Gump makes me cry at exactly the same point every time I watch it. Is there a film that does the same to you? If there is, what is the film, and what part of it gets you blubbering every time?
Philadelphia, when he's passed on now. The court case is over and he's died, and they all meet in his apartment where him and Antonio Banderas lived. And there's Neil Young's Philadelphia playing in the background, and the camera, very Jonathan Demme, is moving around, looking at people, smiling, laughing with the kids, and then it focuses on the TV that's in the room, and it's him as a boy playing with his younger brothers, running around and stuff.
Man.
And the music's playing, and it's so wrought with... It's horrible because you realise, like, all the shit he goes through for being homosexual, and he gets fired from his job because he's got AIDS and stuff. And then you realise he once was a little boy, like, playing with his brothers and that, and there was just... oh, it's bliss. Every time cuts me. But it doesn't help that you got Neil Young singing the bloody song behind it because it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a Tom Hanks film.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's testament to the man, isn't it?
Yeah, man, strong.
I think Forrest Gump was probably the first film that made me cry. And then in my sort of child and adolescent years, the films that would mainly get me triggered would be anything that happened to a dog. So Homeward Bound, Turner and Hooch, Land Before Time. So for me, it was almost monumental because it was the first like real life sort of film with real people having conflicting emotions and troubled times that really hit me. And still now, at that point where he asks Jenny if his son's stupid, it just every single time I start welling up maybe 5 minutes before that scene.
He says,
starts.
"Is he smart?" Doesn't he?
Yeah.
Is he smart? And he could, because of the way he's reacting to the situation.
Exactly that. It's the way he reacts, and his reactions as an actor is why Tom Hanks is probably one of the best to ever do it. It's just so.
I cried
emotional.
yesterday.
Yeah,
man. I cried low at the bit where she's laying in bed, pretty much dying, and she says to him, "What was Vietnam like?" And it's just great directing work by Zemeckis. And whilst Tom Hanks starts to talk in the scene, it cuts to the shots of him talking about the places he's seen. And you see him in the jungle in Vietnam, and he looks up at the stars, and he goes, and then on the bayou, and then you see like this deep south, and he's looking at the sunset, and then he was running in the Monument Valley. And it's a great little montage of the places he's been, and then he's still talking. And it cuts back to her, and she goes, "I wish I was there for him." Oh, cuts, man. Cuts.
Yeah, there's several points in the film that almost gets me, but it's that point with his son that always pushes me over the edge.
That's pacing.
Yeah.
So they there's a reason why it hits probably every time, because it's allowed you to invest yourself into the character's journey. You know, like Rings of Power, and try to get you to care when they don't care.
Yeah, why should I care if you don't care? But
they allow you to get to that point. You see his grief come gradually with his mum and Bubba and stuff.
Builds up.
Yeah, and then when it hits, like you said, the thing that bothers it, what cuts you the most, the fact that he's worried his son's thick. Yeah. Which is raw, because that shows how gold and pure he really is as a person.
Well, and it shows that he's more emotionally astute than you might think he is, because he's considering that he knows, therefore, by being worried about that, he knows that he's not the sharpest.
He's an observer, isn't he, almost?
Yeah. So, and the thought that he might be restricted because of his intelligence really bothers him, and it's just so well handled, and moves me every single time. I think Forrest Gump is my most watched movie of all time. What is yours, and roughly how many times have you watched it?
I think most watched movie would probably be either Silence of the Lambs.
Really?
Which I've seen, I must be on 12 times. The Thing, maybe 8 times. Philadelphia, 5 or 6. So many, man. Jaws, obviously, like 25.
Oh, okay, so there's the winner.
It's the winner, but it's not my favourite.
No.
But, lots.
Yeah.
Hell of a lot.
I think for me, Forrest Gump is probably, if it was in a race, it would almost have lapped all the other films. I've watched it so many more times than other films.
It's had time, though, hasn't it? There's some new films that I've seen. Well, I say new, let's say in the last 10 years, like I've seen 3 or 4 times because I love them.
Yeah.
I've watched Django 4 times, and it's 4 or 5 times. So if I was to keep that pace, I'd be going past Jaws. Yeah. But I saw Jaws when I was like 6 or 7 first time. So you think 35 years, I've had a lot more time to watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's what stands the test of time for rewatchability. And for me, Silence of the Lambs does have that. But I suppose that's the whole, tucking his dick in just gets me every time.
Yeah, that's worth a rewatch alone, isn't it?
Always.
Yeah. I'm a huge Tom Hanks fan. What do you consider to be his best performance, and why?
Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think I was going to say you've already answered that.
I mean, he got his Oscar for it. I think the character, the plot, the story, it's much more real life. I think it's much more deserving of credence, and it's more unknown. So not many people know the film Philadelphia. I'm talking about, say, you're a GP, your general populace. Forrest Gump, again, restaurant, it's in-house
huge.
name. Yeah. It's used everywhere. Almost everyone knows Forrest Gump. Yeah. But Philadelphia is a very low-key, sort of unknown movie, apart from you cinephiles or people with a high interest in AIDS.
Yeah.
Like, it's less known. I think it's his best performance.
Yeah, he's fantastic in that. Yeah, I for me, it's obviously Forrest Gump, obviously. But then...
Is it not Pinocchio or The Terminal?
No, God, no. But a close second is probably Philadelphia and or Green Mile.
Oh, Apollo 13. That's great as well. He plays a brilliant Jim Lovell.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's a hard one.
He's one of the best.
But no, cold. Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Straight up for me, yeah.
Great. Where does Forrest Gump rank in his list of best performances? Got to be near the top, surely.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'd go, if you're really going to ask.
I am.
If you're really going to ask, I'd go Philadelphia, Green Mile, Apollo 13, Forrest Gump, Castaway, Saving Private Ryan. Yeah, I think around about that mark.
Yeah.
Can't do Toys because he's a voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is great in Toy Story as well, though. What would you give Forrest Gump out of 10?
8.
8?
Yeah.
Okay.
8.
Try not to be too affected by that.
You've got to remember Philly came a year before.
Yeah.
So, and that film blew my mind.
No, I'm just playing. 8 is a fucking solid score. If I made a film and I heard someone give it an 8 out of 10, I'd be chuffed. Like I would. This is a great score. For me personally, I mentioned it already. Not many films I consider to be perfect, but for me, it is a perfect film.
Yeah.
And as such, I would give it a 10 out of 10. It just hits everything for
Your
me.
first ever.
Yeah, and as someone who watches a film, especially doing this podcast, and looks for dislikes and looks for negatives, I've really struggled with any here. And for the sake of the podcast, I watched this film twice in the space of a week. And normally I'll go a year, 2 years before watching it again. And even watching it twice in a week, I just loved every moment of it. And I think it was one of those rare films that I always will.
Well, 15 years ago, for me, it would have been 10.
Yeah.
And I think it's testament to the film that 15 years later, it's an 8. I think that's huge.
Yeah.
Okay.
That gives Forrest Gump a total score of 18 out of 20. If you like your films to be perfect, timeless, and an emotional tour de force, or if you want to rebel against the cancel culture that looks to damage the legacy of films that were made with only good intentions, then Forrest Gump could be a film for you. Consider watching this one if you enjoyed The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, and Marcel the Shell with Shoes On.
Oh.
Should we play a game?
See?
The game in question is What the Plot, where the rules are simple and the results quite the opposite. Harry will conceive an original idea from his big and beautiful brain and give birth to a plot. It is then down to me to nurture this thought by providing a film title, genre, cast, and anything else I can think of to raise this brainchild into a fully functioning film concept. Over to you, Harry.
2 armed police officers, Metropolitan... Okay.
Okay.
Okay, 2 armed Metropolitan police officers, 1 male, 1 female. They are the security detail for a prison van that has just left the courts of justice, where a notorious paedophile has just been convicted of the abuse of like 20 children, right? So they've left the courts, and these 2 coppers, they're in the car trailing the prison van, and it's their job to just get that van to the prison safely. This is London.
So they're transporting a notorious paedophile.
He's been convicted of the charges set against him in one of the London courts. Royal Court Justice, and they're essentially escorting the prison van, as happens a lot in these cases because of the crowds and stuff. So they're escorting the van. Turns out though that one of the victims of this sexual offender is the son of a crime boss from London, called Mitch Wallner. So he's the crime lord of a central London gang, and he waited for the conviction to be handed down for absolute proof that the man was guilty of what he'd done. And what he's arranged is for this 1.5-hour journey that they're making way to the prison for, he's arranged every criminal that would take a payday to get that van, to get him out of that van.
Put a bounty on his head,
yeah,
so to speak. What a good idea.
And you got this morality of 2 coppers defending an evil, notorious pedophile because it's their duty. Maybe there's a conflict between the coppers and the male-female copper. One of them's like, the guy's a pig, just hand him over and we can get away with this. The other one's like, duty, I don't know, could go that way. But yeah, most important aspect is 2 armed Met police taking this security van to prison, and Mitch Wallner's criminal empire has descended upon the streets of London to get that van at all costs because he abused his son.
That is meaty.
Yeah.
That's going to take a fair bit of thought. Can you tell me the name of the... you gave the name of the mob boss.
Just the mob boss.
Yeah.
because that name would be thrown about a lot in the film.
Okay. So what was the name of the mob boss again?
Mitch Warner.
Mitch Warner.
He's one of Mitch Warner's lads.
Okay.
Imagine it though. Imagine the traffic light scenes. Feeling nervous, kind of like Sicario, wouldn't it? Like that bit in Sicario where they're waiting to get back across the border and they're looking about and it's like really nervous.
Oh.
But London. Yeah.
Okay.
But can I ask one condition?
You can.
You cannot use Statham.
Right, hang on then. I need to change everything.
No, you didn't really write him down.
Of course I didn't. I don't think Jason Statham is ever going to be a choice. No offence, Jason. You kick ass, just not my cup of tea.
Yeah, Dad.
Okay, that is a really interesting plot. First name that came to mind was James McAvoy.
Nice.
And I'd have him as maybe the copper that is like, this guy is a dirty bastard.
Hand him over.
Let him have like the justice he deserves. And the other police officer, it's like, well, it's essentially good cop, bad cop, isn't it?
But in London.
Yeah. And I'd see the good cop to James McAvoy's bad cop would be Rosamund Pike, because I'm just a big fan. And I could see her being quite straight-laced, going, look, no, the justice should be served. He's being found guilty. He's going to prison for a long, long time, or the rest of his life, or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a meaty plot, man. That I've got.
But it's one that you don't have to add to.
No, that's
because it is pretty much there.
Yeah, there's a fair bit of casting you could do in this, though.
Who's Mitch Warner?
So again, it would be easy to go the Ray Winston type.
No,
but I'm not going to do that.
I don't want Ray.
Would lessen the film. I would go with someone who's a lot more softly spoken, but I could see as a real menace. And I would go Mark Rylance.
Oh yeah,
smart, suited, but old school crime lord.
Yeah.
So doesn't necessarily get his hands dirty, but he don't have to.
Cheese slicer, long coat, tie.
Yeah.
Is it done? Give me the fucking shooter.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, I see. Or him or Ben Kingsley, but I think Mark Rylance because it goes a bit against type. Yeah. So
I'm seeing mopeds. I'm seeing
real
white vans smashing into cars, trying to block roads and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just the title I'm struggling with.
Oh God.
Let's
think of any Bruce Springsteen song. Any Bruce Springsteen song will do it. I guarantee you. Okay. I'm on fire.
Yeah, it could be really quite straightforward. I'm probably overthinking it. I know.
Think of a Simply Red song.
Money's too tight to mention.
Great.
That doesn't make any sense.
Think of another Simply Red song.
Okay, no, I'm going to go with this one. You may slate it, but it's the one that's come into my head, and I'm just going to go with it. Right. So, in summary, we've got 2 armed Met police officers, 1 male, 1 female. They're in charge of a security detail transferring a convicted paedophile who's going away for a long, long time.
It's found out that he touched up a mob lord's son.
Yes. And they're escorting the van back to prison.
Yeah.
But on that journey, they find out that this gang leader,
Mitch
Warner, wants blood. He's looking to take matters into his own hands
because he's been convicted. It's done.
Seek justice. So yeah, it's a drama thriller. Fascinating aspect of the story is the conflict between the good cop and bad cop. One's by the book, which I see played by Rosamund Pike, and one's like, you know what, fuck that. If that was my son, I want to get my hands on him.
But like McAvoy can't let Rosamund Pike die.
Yeah.
So he has to maybe stick with her, even though he doesn't want to.
And who knows, maybe James McAvoy's got some history with the crime boss Mitch Warner, who I see played by Mark Rylance in this film. Yeah. So it would have James McAvoy and Rosamund Pike with Mark Rylance as the mob daddy, Mitch Warner, and I'd have the film directed by Guy Ritchie.
Of course.
Not just because it's London.
No,
all right, mainly
good.
Because it's London.
Yeah.
But you could see him tackle that film.
Yeah.
Larger than life crime film with a little bit more serious for Guy Ritchie. It's not going to be your sort of dark comedy that you might see that is synonymous with his films like Lock, Stock and Snatch.
I think it has to be a British director, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And if it's set in London, it's got to have that London aesthetic.
Yeah.
So starring James McAvoy, Rosamund Pike and Mark Rylance, directed by Guy Ritchie, and I'd call the film Transfer of Guilt. Now, you all know why you're here. That bastard that ruined my boy's life is on his way to live a cushy life behind bars. I ain't gonna let that happen. You ain't gonna let that happen. I don't care who does it, I don't care how it's done, but I want that monster alive and I want him brought to me. Tool up, and to the victor, the spoils. John, I think we're being followed.
You're imagining things.
No, I'm not. I'm sure that's one of Warner's men.
It ain't, but if it was, I would happily hand this mug over to him.
John, that man has a life sentence waiting for him. That's justice.
Justice would be letting Warner do whatever he wants to that vile nonce.
John, look out! From Guy Ritchie, director of Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, Snatch and The Gentleman. Starring James McAvoy.
Damn it, Rose, he's not worth dying for.
Rosamund Pike. You're a servant of the law, do your job. And Mark Rylance. I don't give a toss. Kill a copper, kill fucking 10 pigs for all I care. Just get that fucking cretin to me and get him to me now. Transfer of guilt. Coming soon.